Airbnb will absolutely ruin your life in 2025 like it did to me in 2024 unless you do a few things I list out in this video today. By the end of this video, I'll show you how you can make $30,000 per month with a new Airbnb business model called co-hosting that no one is talking about because it has not got caught up in social media yet. In case you didn't know this, there are three major benefits to getting started in Airbnb co-hosting. Number one, you do not need any experience to get started. Number two, you do not need to invest any of your own cash to get started. And number three, you can manage this business from anywhere in the entire world remotely. Most people are actually losing money on Airbnb because they are currently not using the right system. I'm going to show you which system you'll want to use if you're thinking about getting into the Airbnb space if you stay until the end of this video. All right, so who am I? So I'm Austin Palacios. I've been investing in Airbnb since 2019. I own properties in Chicago, West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, and Tampa. I've also scaled an Airbnb co-hosting business to 37 properties under management and then sold that business. Here are some of the properties within my portfolio today. Now, the first question that you're probably asking yourself is, can I make money with Airbnb? Yes, there are multiple different ways that you can make money with Airbnb, but I'm going to show you what I made with Airbnb co-hosting this month as well as last month. This month, I made $35,000 in income from Airbnb co-hosting. Last month, I made $41,000 and some change with Airbnb co-hosting. And this business model is about to explode due to the fact that nobody has actually heard about Airbnb co-hosting before, and it's not talked about on social media like Airbnb arbitrage or investing in Airbnbs as well, which gives you the ability to get in early before anybody else finds out. All right, so is it hard to make money with Airbnb? Absolutely not. You need no experience whatsoever to get started with it. You do not need a degree. You do not need a diploma. You can land your first Airbnb co-hosting client on average within 30 to 45 days. And what you pretty much do as an Airbnb host is just facilitate everything for the actual guests staying at that actual property. So you communicate with the guests, you schedule cleaners, you schedule maintenance people. You overall just make sure the guests have a 5-star experience while they're on vacation or while they're traveling with their friends, family members, or by themselves. And for you doing that, the Airbnb guests pay a fee to stay at that actual Airbnb. There are 3 different ways to get started with Airbnb. However, there is a new way that no one is currently talking about. But first, let's break down the first 2 ways first. So first off, there's Airbnb investing, where you currently purchase a property, you put down 20% to buy an actual building, and then you furnish it, you design it, and then you launch it as an actual Airbnb. So usually 20% is roughly anywhere from $60,000 to $100,000. And then you invest another $25,000 into design. So roughly you're into this property about $100,000 to $150,000. The advantage that you get though is tax breaks. You get appreciation, you get debt pay down, but not everybody has $100,000 to $150,000 to invest into an Airbnb in the very beginning. The second way to get involved is something called Airbnb arbitrage. And that's going to be where you rent an actual property from a landlord, and then you pay them the first month, last month, and security deposit to go ahead and get into the actual property to then furnish it and make it an actual Airbnb. So you have to pay that landlord first month, last month, and security deposit, which is roughly anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 in first month, last month, and security deposit. On top of that, you then have to pay to furnish the property. So it's going to be anywhere from $3,000 to $15,000, depending on, is the property a studio or is the property an actual 4-bedroom house, right? So it could cost you anywhere from $7,000 to $30,000 to get involved with Airbnb arbitrage. A lot of risk, a lot of liability to go ahead and take your first step into the actual Airbnb space. But now there's a brand new way to get started with Airbnb that no one's currently talking about. It's called Airbnb co-hosting. It's where you manage the day-to-day operations for somebody who already owns an actual Airbnb. So you don't have to put a down payment down. You don't have to put first, last month, and security deposit down. You don't have to pay to furnish or design the actual property. All you do is you manage the day-to-day operations of that actual Airbnb for somebody else, and you make 20% of all the income that the property actually generates. At the end of the day, you have no risk, you have no liability, and you're able to take your first step into the actual Airbnb space on somebody else's dime. So what do you not do as a co-host? You do not clean the actual property. You do not do maintenance on the actual property. You do not go to the property. What you actually do as an Airbnb co-host is you facilitate everything. So you schedule cleaners, you schedule maintenance people, you do guest communication, you do owner's reports, you do everything for the actual Airbnb that you would do if it was your own Airbnb, but you're doing it for somebody else at the end of the day. And now what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and take a look at this graph here, going back to 2016. This shows the number of Airbnbs that are currently coming to the marketplace every single year. If we take a look at this graph over the past 10 years, going back to 2016, we've had a steady incline going all the way up to 2019, then a steep drop off due to COVID. And then after COVID occurred, we had a steady incline year over year with more Airbnbs coming to the marketplace. So what this tells me is that every single year, there's going to be more Airbnb homeowners buying properties and needing Airbnb co-hosts such as yourself to manage the day-to-day operations for themselves. What 99% of Airbnb co-hosts don't know is that by taking on every single client that comes their way, they're actually losing thousands of dollars every single month. You could actually make more income with less clients under management if you're very particular about who you onboard. What you want to do is you want to focus on quality of clients and quality of properties under management. That means properties with more bedrooms, a better location, and better amenities. And avoiding homeowners that we like to classify as something as an HMO, a high maintenance owner. High maintenance owners are people that want to micromanage you as their actual property manager. One high maintenance owner can take up 80% of your time and will at the end of the day prevent you from scaling this actual business. So it's so important in the very beginning to set expectations correctly with your owners as well as vet your owners before you onboard their actual properties. Good questions that you can potentially ask them is, how often do you use your Airbnb? Is your Airbnb an investment property or a vacation property? How much do you want to be involved with the actual Airbnb management of your actual property? You want to make sure to focus on quality properties as well as quality homeowners. All right, this is how you can get to 10K per month in income by the end of 2025. Right? So as an Airbnb co-host, you're paid on a percentage basis. You're paid 20% of all the income that the property actually generates. So you want to target higher income generating properties. For example, for myself, I only take on properties that are doing at a minimum $5,000 a month in income, while targeting properties that are doing at least $10,000 a month in income. So let's go ahead and do the numbers and see how many properties we would need under management to hit 10K a month in income. All right, so if a property is generating $5,000 per month, and we're charging 20% in management income, we're making $1,000 a month in management fees. If a property is doing $10,000 a month in income, and we're charging 20%, we're making $2,000 in management income. All right, if our goal is $10,000 a month in income, how many properties would we need? So we would need 10 properties that are generating at least $1,000 a month in management income to be able to be at 10K a month in management income. If we're targeting properties that are doing $10,000 a month in income, we would just need 5 properties under management to be at $10,000. So what's so important with this Airbnb co-hosting business model is to focus on quality over quantity. Now, most people have no idea how to start this business and most importantly, how to actually find clients to manage for. So they spend hours on Zillow and Facebook trying to find clients. But I'm going to tell you the exact system that I use to land my first 13 clients under management, and honestly, it's pretty simple. But first, let me explain what other people use on Zillow and Facebook groups. All right, so with Zillow, what a lot of people will do is they'll reach out to long-term rental homeowners who have their property listed on Zillow and are currently looking for a tenant to put in place to lease the property to. They'll pick up the phone, they'll call these landlords and say, hey, John, have you ever considered making your property an Airbnb? John says, hey, look, that sounds kind of exciting. I'll have a conversation with you. But then the Airbnb co-host will then start explaining how much income he'll have to invest into that long-term rental to make it an actual Airbnb. It's usually $25,000 to design and furnish the actual property itself. So this can cause a lot of sales friction in the conversation, trying to convince this long-term rental owner to convert his property over to an actual Airbnb. The other challenge with these homeowners is they're not used to the Airbnb systems and processes, so they're so worried about somebody throwing a party at their actual property. These are a lot of the objections that these Airbnb co-hosts get when they're trying to call leads on Zillow and trying to convince them to switch their long-term rental over to making it an Airbnb. The second way people try to land clients is by going to Airbnb co-hosting groups. In Airbnb co-hosting groups, every couple of weeks, somebody will post, hey, look, I'm looking for an Airbnb co-host. But there's so much competition in these Facebook groups, hundreds of other co-hosts within that group that will comment on that post and say, hey, look, I'm a co-host and I can manage your property for you. So what ends up happening, 30 people will apply to be this co-host, and then that Airbnb homeowner will interview 5 people, and of those 5 people, one of those co-hosts will drop their rate in half from 20% to 10%, so that Airbnb homeowner will choose them to manage their actual property. There's no way to know how many properties you will consistently onboard if you're using Facebook groups and Zillow to try to find leads. There's too much competition and too much sales resistance in this actual process. However, there is a strategy that is unethical, but if you use it, everybody will end up moving forward with you as their actual Airbnb co-host. The absolute best way that I found to bring on Airbnb co-hosting clients is by targeting existing Airbnb homeowners that are currently being managed by larger property managers and are currently in pain and looking for a smaller boutique manager like yourself to manage their actual property. Now, there are 2 major corporations that manage thousands of listings all across the US. And in every single market, they spend thousands of dollars every single year on marketing to bring on new clients. And they're really focused on scaling the actual business and not quality service. Those 2 property managers are going to be Evolve as well as Vacasa. And what ends up happening, because they're spending thousands of dollars on marketing every single month, in each market that they're focused on, there's one manager that manages between 80 to 100 properties under management. What that means is that manager is having to communicate with 80 to 100 owners in their specific market and having to deal with 500 guests every single month, making it challenging for the Airbnb homeowner to get a hold of their manager. If it's challenging for the Airbnb homeowner to get a hold of their manager, imagine how challenging it is for a guest while they're on vacation to get a hold of that same Airbnb manager, which leads to negative reviews. And once you start getting negative reviews, it pushes your Airbnb listing down on the Airbnb algorithm. So instead of you being on page 1 or page 2, you're on page 10 or page 15. So that means an Airbnb guest that's looking to book an actual property, they're having to scroll 10 or 15 different pages before they find the actual Airbnb listing, resulting in less income being generated for that Airbnb listing, causing the Airbnb homeowner not to have a great experience and not to be happy, which is why they're looking for somebody more boutique, more hands-on, that they can actually have a conversation with. And whenever they have a question, they can pick up the phone and actually call. That'll treat their property as if it's their own. And think about it, they're already set up as an Airbnb. They already paid to design and furnish the actual property, and they're already paying somebody 20%. These are the best Airbnb homeowners to go after if you're looking to scale an Airbnb co-hosting business. And by the way, if you want to learn exactly how I'm able to get a hold of these Airbnb homeowners, just go ahead and click the link below to apply. And with that, I'll see you in the next video.